Well, the good news is everybody got V12 loaded, which is nice. Have you had a chance to experiment with it at all? Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff looks a little bit different than.
Yeah, and some of the stuff is hidden.
Yeah, and for some reason, every time you start, like you go to your design, you always have to go back and say, show me the toolpath. It's like you can't keep that thing up, it keeps going away.
Show the what?
The toolpath panel on the right.
Oh, on the right?
Yeah, it keeps going away, so I gotta keep going back to the toolpaths and say new toolpaths.
I'll show you a trick on that. I don't like it, but I'll show you a trick on that if you like to see it all the time. Where you can
Probably has a pin somewhere, but I didn't bother to.
Well, you pin it and then you drag it over, and you put it right adjacent to, let's see, from your perspective, right adjacent to the design. So both panels are over here, so you don't have to swap between them. But you also cut down on the real estate over here as far as the design is concerned. So I've got not the largest screen in the world, so I cherish every cubic millimeter that I can get on the design. Okay, tonight's on V12, and a couple of things. You can take notes if you can read them. This page here is simply has all the slides that were important on it. Okay, front and back. I usually give these as 3-panel sheets, but after I figured out I needed about 30 of them, I wasn't going to print out 170 pages, so you're going to get this size. This one's a little more complicated. This guy. To make it work right, it's a booklet. So, yeah. And I'll show you where to find this if the printing is too small. It's readily available. VCarve did a good job on their documentation for the new system. Some of the most of the documentation that refers to V12 assumes that you knew 11.55. So it doesn't give you the entire system. It just tells you what the incremental changes were between 11.55 and 12. So that's why only people that have actually downloaded, and I can tell when you download, by the way, when you downloaded 11 or version 12, you may not have installed it, but I know when you downloaded it. And then only the people that have downloaded it were invited to the party. Everybody else was not invited. So if you hear people complaining about it, then they have to download. So couple of precautionary statements, really important, and I think several of you have already found where the problems were, is that you must sign in to VCarve both at home and with your user ID, which is your password, here in the shop. Even if you're on, I don't think we have, I think all we have is the Makerspace edition downstairs. We don't have the client edition, so you have to log in as yourself. This whole login process has to do primarily with the full version of VCarve. If you were to pay the $395, whatever it is, a year for it, then you could actually load databases from tool databases from Vectric storage site on your computer wherever you were. So if you came into the shop and you used it, you could load it in. If you were at home, you could load it in. It wouldn't make any difference. It would be a uniform platform wherever you were at. So you have to sign in. The compatibility is that V12 can read V11.55 and V11.0, but not the reverse. If it's written in 12, 11.55 and 11.0 can't read it, even though it's part of the makerspace. It's just not backward compatible, I guess is what they call it. The problem is that's going to happen every so often, and if it does happen, that's the if so down there. What you'll want to do is open the CRV file that you have, that flower or whatever it is, on your computer at home. Open it up in V12 and then save it back. Now you may have to go in and just move something around, something to change the file. I really don't know if you can do a file save on an unaltered file, but you could do a file save as if you're not really sure. But some way of saving it back, and once you save it back, then it becomes a V12 file. The problem with that is if you try to open it with 11.55, it's not going to work. So, the moral of the story is, if all you have is 11.55 at home, and you guys all have 12 now, so use it. But if you're using 11.55 and you bring your file in, you'll be able to open it up here on 12, and you'll save it back, and you'll get it home, and your computer will say, I can't read it. Okay, if all you're using is 5.5, or 11.55.
Are you going to get rid of the 11.5?
Yeah, 11.0 is now off both computers as of yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before, someday. And the 5.5 will leave on June 15th. I want to give everybody, you guys are probably part of the advanced team, but I want to give everybody a chance to get to version 12, and then it's gone. 11.55 is gone. It caused too much conversion, too much consternation to have 11.0 and 11.55, and it's going to even be worse now, going from 11.55 to 12.0. So, I'm excited about it, because and you guys probably are too, because there's a lot of new things that are going on in the world with V12. As you've seen, the interface, the user interface is different. It's much fresher. It's not as stilted as it used to be. They do have drop-down elements. There's a sheet drop-down that never existed before. Have you guys used sheets before? Okay. You're going to see how I use them in this presentation here. Really a nice way of getting around. So you have a sheets drop-down, which never happened before. We still have the layers and still have the layers. You also have the thing, we used to have models. On the left-hand side, we had the tabs that said models. Okay, it wasn't. It was, models. Now they're called components, because I think people were thinking, oh, model is a singular item. Well, components you can start stacking on top of each other. If you have a flower, you can put a ribbon on it, put a little note on the ribbon, and you got yourself a model. But that's just a series of components. You also have, for some reason, and I can't figure out why, the orthographic view. Could anybody tell me why you'd ever want to use an orthographic view? That's the weirdest thing. It's not a perspective view. Everything is equal in size going all the way around, and I have yet to be able to figure out why. It doesn't look good. The only time it does look halfway decent is if you're looking straight down on the top view, and you call for the orthographic view, it gets rid of all the shadows. But that's the old.
SketchUp has something similar.
Pardon?
The SketchUp has something similar. When you
Right,
look at
right.
3D model.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's other ways of handling that one. View control is the one I like, and we'll see that later. It's the little ball that goes around. Unified import. You don't have to worry about, is it a vector file or is it a bitmap file? Both of them are pulled in on the same button. The software figures out which one it is, and it will pull it in appropriately. So we'll see that later. On the toolpaths, we have one of my, couple of my favorite ones. One is, I did both of these yesterday, really sloppily, but I'll pass them around anyway to show you what about a half hour worth of work will do. So this is an inlay that was made. Not too bad, but, pardon? Oh, you want it that way?
Perfect.
Okay, that way? I'll show you how this is built and how much more elegant it is than the old 1, 2, 3 method. I'm going to throw the 1, 2, 3 method out the window. It is gone. This
I tried it, that's what I was trying to do, and I think I'm missing either 2 or 3.
this thing is the inlay is just really elegant in its execution. It tells you everything you need to know about the inlay, well, the plug and the inlay itself. So, and the other one, this one didn't turn out too well either. So, can you defocus it a little bit? Make this thing way out of focus. No, this is they call it a sketch, a VCarve sketch. It took all of about to make the software portion of it, the toolpath. It took all of about 4 seconds to do this drawing. Okay.
And it was an inlay too?
What?
It's an inlay too?
No, this is an inlay. The problem I had with this is you couldn't see the lines. No, there are a couple of issues with this. Don't ever use. I had the word for it earlier. It's a hand carver's
Term.
hand carver's wood. I can't remember the name of it. It's a softer wood.
Basswood?
Basswood, yeah. Don't ever use basswood on the machine downstairs. It just tears it to bits. Not the machine, the wood. And it loses a lot of detail. Well, in order to get the detail back, because it was like white on white, in order to get the detail back, I said, let me spray it with some paint and then wipe it off real quick. And that's the end result there.
That's from a bitmap, I'm assuming,
Pardon?
right? That's from a bitmap that you were able to do that, not from a vector drawing.
No, it was, yeah, I had a picture that was taken, this is a picture that I took of them. That's my brother-in-law and granddaughter in Morocco, and it was just off my camera. I brought it in off the camera, imported it, yeah, told it to run the, there's a couple of options you have to worry about, but we'll see how those things work. Keep out zones are nice too. It tells you where not to run the bit, okay? So if you have clamps holding it down, the keep out zones, you can tell them where the clamps are going to be, and they won't run any tool paths into those areas, which are pretty nice. And yeah. Anybody deal with models very much or components? Okay. So this is the end result of it. We've got the imported whichever end this thing is on. There we go. Over here, the unified import is this one right there, the third one from the left. And then the fourth one or the second one from the right. And the one on the far right is for components. So it's STL, et cetera, can be brought in there. So it's that one's a 3D component, this last one here. They did away with file save and file copy and file all these other stuff because all those file saves and copies exist in the drop-down menu. So it was just real estate that they were trying to pick up there. Down here is some 3D modeling tools that are pretty nice. You used to have to jump all over the place to get them, and now they're right out in the open. These two toolbars right here are toggle toolbars, and they start toggling off in and out. The left one is the component, and we'll see how they all work. The left one is the component. This one is the bitmap, and notice that they occur on both of them. Let's see, this one.
Nope. Okay.
I've got the screen.
This one. Oh yeah, this one is vectors, I believe. And this one is toggles between wireframe vectors, which is we're normally used to seeing, and filled vectors, I guess is what it's called. So instead of having just showing the outline of where it goes, it'll actually do a fill on it. So those four guys also occur over here, but you have a couple more. You can actually turn off the turn on and off any vectors on this side. You can turn off vectors that might have floated over. For example, if I didn't want to have the vector showing for the best flower, if I were to click this guy, the best flower would disappear. The vector would disappear. This has to do with the modeling plane. This has to do with showing the size of the material itself. So it'll give you an outline of the material. This is kind of handy if you forget, did I really set my 0 to the lower left-hand corner? Okay, you can actually click on this and find out. That one right there. The aids and prompts down here are nice if you're not familiar with some of these things and how they work. You can leave the aids and prompts on. If not, you can click on this little question mark and a prompt will come up and say, do you want to turn them off, toggle them off? You say yes, and then they'll disappear and they won't come back until you toggle them back on again. But it kind of tells you in some cases what you're doing and what you can do to a particular model or a particular set of vectors. This guy's nice because you can now start to rotate all around in a organic way a model. Doesn't mean much for a 2D or a 2.5D, but it means a lot for model creation, this one, because now you can see, look down the top, and you can see, does the ribbon actually protrude well enough from the flower to make it look real? Does it protrude too much and make it look too heavy? So all of these things are available on the design side. Any questions? Did anybody fool around with any of these and have any problems? Or no problems? Good. Okay. Now on the toolpath side, one of the things I found out is best flower was actually, the word was actually right on the ribbon over on this side, on the design, or on the vector side. They're right here, it kind of slid off. And it has to do with the perspective. And don't worry about it. It will all work out. It'll all actually get put onto the ribbon. However, this is the big item right here. This, to me, when I'm doing modeling, it was always a real pain to adjust the height and to adjust the height of each component. Because in this particular model, when it was first brought in, and we'll see later, the ribbon was actually sunk into the flower, which really looked terrible. I mean, it shouldn't look that way. So you have to figure some way of advancing the ribbon out of the flower or diminishing this height of the flower, or you could tilt it one way or the other. So that's what these guys are right down here. This one here, if you have it in this mode here, right now I've got only the flower selected, I believe. Yeah, only the flower is selected. So if I click on this guy and I raise him up, the whole flower begins to lift up. There's two parts to that component. There's the model portion, that's the thing that we really want to see, and then there's the base portion, and that's the thing that kind of holds a fragile model together. So if I lift them both up, on that left one, everything lifts up uniformly. So that both the base and the model will expand equally. The second one, with just the top peak, says that if I expand on that one, it's just the model that'll expand, not the base, just the model. So I'll be able to adjust that by itself. The third one says, okay, I want to expand the base only, but not the model. And so that will do that. And they all have different times to be used. I made a heart once with a keyhole in it, and there was a key, and then there was a ribbon on it, and I said something nice and sweet. But you had to be able to manipulate each one of the components individually in order for the whole thing to look somewhat presentable. And so you had to be able to lift the key out of the heart, you had to push the keyhole into the heart, and then you had to project the ribbon above the heart. So that was the whole. You can easily do that with the first three here. Sometimes things just don't want to work right and you have to tilt something or fade something out. And that's what this last guy here, it has to do with tilting and fading. And so as doing models, I think that's a great improvement for it. The other items you have are, generally there's been no hidden items here, but we do have new items. It's the sketch carving, which I shouldn't have shown, but I did. The sketch carving here is just fantastically easy to use, but I'll say it's fantastically easy to make something. To make it look good, it's going to take some practice. I was talking to Travis, and he did really a beautiful picture of he and his mother for Mother's Day. It was done on wood and used the same concept. And I guess it took him about 12 hours. And Travis is no dummy. So it took him about 12 hours to get it put together right. And we'll see how he did it later. This is the VCarve inlay, the one I like so well also. And this is the keep out zones. I think we're going to start moving, possibly. We're not going to eliminate, by the way, blue tape, but I think we're going to start also teaching a little bit about clamps in the classes. So that keep out zone, it may come into play more and more.
You're going to remove that top spoil board?
Pardon?
You're going to remove the top spoil board on the top?
Yes, yes. Remove the. I'm going to later this summer, and right after the fair, I want to come in and spend all day Tuesday on one and then next Tuesday on the other, and replace the entire spoil board on both of them and get them back into good shape. So these are the view control again. Yeah. Okay, look into it. This guy's great. If you click on the word top, it automatically rotates and positions itself to the top. If you double click on it, it goes and presents the bottom. And you can actually click on either, one of these triangular sides, and it'll actually begin to rotate it in a side view.
Isn't that the orthographic views?
No.
Being able to
It's,
see the top or the side perspective and
they call orthographic in this thing slightly different, and it's. I had to click it 2 or 3 times before I figured out what it was doing, and then I started measuring things, and I said, "Oh yeah, now I can see what they're talking about," and we'll take a look at it. Good. These are again the toolbars. This is the orthographic toggle view. That's the one right there, the one with the 3 little things there. And the only way you can tell the difference is those 3 little fingers appear slightly different in one view than the other. And I'm not sure which is which. This, you just surround an area that you want and click on this, and it'll fill the screen with that area that you've selected. And let's see, unified import is right here, and this is your component import. And sheets. You guys haven't used sheets yet, huh? Oh, man. You don't know what fun is. Come on.
Sheet in there.
What?
That's a good sheet.
Well, I was going to short sheet it, but you got that? Navy guy? Okay. Where is it hidden? Okay, we used to have some real nice functions. We could make a nice smooth curve. You'd hit a point here, and 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 say curve, and it would now smooth this curve out real nicely for you. No longer exists. You can do a 3-point curve, so you hit a point here, and a point here, and a point here, and it'll make a nice little curve. You can't do anything greater than 180 degrees, so you can't hit one here, and one way up here, because it turned out to be more than 180 degrees. The software, I think, barks at you a little bit. But now now this curve is under the freehand drawing. We have always had freehand drawing, but now you can adjust the smoothness of your freehand drawing. So you draw the curve that you want, which is not as easy for me as I would have thought. But you draw the curve that you want, and then you adjust the smoothness first, and then you draw the curve. And you can actually make that curve pretty smooth, even with a jagged line going through it. You can also go the other way. You can make it more jaggedy than you started with, but I don't know who would really want that. But that's under freehand drawing. It used to be its own icon. Text kerning and text in a box are now under text itself. They used to be 2 separate items where you click on text in the box, and as long as you could type, all the text would stay in that box. It would begin to shrink down until, so it would fit. Now that's a declaration. Text in the box is a declaration at the top of the text menu or the text window, very top. If you declare text in a box, I think you have to declare the box. Once you've declared it, you're committed. You can't come back and say, oh, I want to unbox that text. It's there for life. until you delete it. Okay. So
What is kerning?
kerning, that's when you have letters like this and you want to be able to separate them, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So now what you do, before you used to have to click on the text, select the text, go to kerning, and then you do it. Well, you have the same functions, but it's inside of the text now. So as long as the text box is open and you move the cursor between two characters, and you can start to move them back and forth. You can move the entire line. You can move individual letters. You can expand them out, and you can bring them back. Be careful though. I fought with this one for about 45 minutes today, and that's the text on a curve. Have you ever played with that, where you've put a curve out there and put some text above it and drop the text on top of the curve? It's real nice, especially if, say you're making a plate and you want to put something on the plate. One of the ways of doing it is to make it, a circle with the proper diameter, and then take the text and drop it onto that circle, and all of a sudden it matches the curve of the plate. Pretty neat. So I had one, and I had a little area that I made a curve for, and I made the text, and I inadvertently hit text on a box, and the box was 4 inches by 4 inches. Well, my design was only 4 inches by 4 inches, and so the curve was much smaller than the overall design, and it squawked back at me and it says, "Your text is too large." So I said, oh, all I need to do is go to the corners and start to reduce the size, and that'll make it all good. No way. Throw away the text, go back in, clear the text in the box, and then it worked perfectly. So the box becomes the boundary for the graphic, and if the graphic exceeds the length of the line, then you're going to get this message. And I tried fixing it, and it was much easier to just erase and start all over again. Boundary vectors, those used to be in the they used to be in the top of the design, if you recall. There was a little funny dotted thing with kind of an arrow, and I could never describe it well. Now it's down at the bottom on the left-hand side. We'll see it, and all you do is select everything you want a boundary for. For those of you who have dealt with 3D modeling, you have to do that if you're going to cut the model out. So you just define that as select everything you want, click on the boundary, and it drops it right in. So next thing is where to find help. So help can be found best at the help contents, and this is right inside of VCarve. So go to help contents, excellent source. Now I'm not sure, you run Apple, don't you, Paul?
No.
Anybody else run an Apple? Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to work with Apple. It seems to me that one of the guys who was running Apple last time may have had a problem in the class. Because when you go to this top one, the help contents, it gives a good pull down of the entire screen and all the icons within it. The tool database, or the design side and the tool side. You click on one of the icons and it will bring up some instructions on how to use it. I think it's swift. It's a lot better than trying to thumb through a bunch of paper and never knowing where you're going to find it. The problem was, in their particular case, I believe the icons were blank. So you didn't know what you were clicking on.
Yeah.
And
I think I ran into that where it wants to open up the Mac help menu, which this is only running in Windows on Parallels, so it had some issues.
okay,
Yeah.
so that may be an issue with the Mac.
Yeah.
The next one, what's new? This is an HTML-based item right here, and it's actually a bigger version of this. So it's a 4-page. If you actually print it out, it's 4 pages. But it kind of gives you a good overview of what's there. Release notes, don't worry about them. All they're saying is, yeah, we fixed the bug that was in the last release. If you're, there's a, we'll get to it later. There's a place called Vectric, or gadgetsvectric.com. I just found it today at the last minute, and it gives you things like, oh, now I want to cut dovetails. Okay, we could never do that before, and now we can cut dovetails. Lo and behold. It also has a whole bunch of other little gadgets in there on resizing certain elements. If you have a series of elements and you want to resize them all the same amount, you can resize them by selecting them and going through they call it a circle resizer, I think. Yeah, circle resize. Dog bone. Now we have a way of making dog bone joints, which before, when I tried doing it, I had a real problem making those dog bones, because once you make your sides and everything, it just becomes a real pain. So now you can go in and make the dog bone cuts there. Another one is the Vectric User Forum, and that, by the way, is part of the help menu. If you go to the help menu, you can just jump out to the Vectric User Forum. If you have a question, you post the question. Sometimes you just search for the question, and invariably people have already stumbled across what you think might be new. And but if nobody has stumbled across it yet, then put it out there. And if 2 or 3 people start complaining about the same thing, then Vectric is fairly responsive, and they'll get back to you. And if all else fails, Google.
Does F1 work with context sensitive? Like if you're in a certain tool and you want help, you hit F1. It'll bring up the help page for that?
I don't know. I don't.
I mean, F1's kind of an industry standard to get help. But
Yeah, it's been going away though.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't recall it as being a part of the package. And you got to remember, these guys are over in England, so hope there's nobody English in here.
Probably use F12.
What?
Yeah, always have to.
All, yeah, all test.
So now the fun begins. Let's take a look at the VCarve client, I hope. And come on, good, came up. And again, I'm signed in, okay? And if you have any doubts, you can always go to Help and About VCarve Pro Trial, and it should show you San Diego Fine Woodworkers here. If it doesn't, talk to me. Quietly, but talk to me. Okay. But yeah, it should all go up there. And you'll see that we're never going to get out of the trial edition, and that's one of the aspects of a makerspace. You don't get the full bore version. There's a couple of things that are going to be missing, but they shouldn't be insurmountable. One of them is export. We can't export files out of this, okay? Unfortunately, it would be nice to, but especially now that they have slicing. But let me I'll go to the easy one, or the nice one first. I'm gonna go to, let me do this. Okay, San Diego Fine Work, that's the same file that I built out of this one. And I'm gonna make a inlay. There we go, thank you. I'm gonna make an inlay out of this. And I've already imported the JPEG, I've already done the tracing, okay? Nothing's changed there. Up here, if I want to get rid of the JPEG, that's right here, boom, and now all I've got is a tracing. I can bring it back and whatever. So I'm going to split the screen, left to right, and I'm going to make that bigger again. Now go over to the toolpath side. And this is where the VCarve inlay is. There's a couple of other inlays up here. They have, they're not as far as, this is almost, this one here is almost, but it's textual, almost like marquetry, which I don't understand. So I'll talk about inlay instead. So all you do is click on this guy, and this is the real nice part about it. Now you gotta watch the bouncing ball. So I'm going to declare that my pocket depth is 0.15 inches. I could have made it 0.1. I could have made it 0.02. Well, you don't want it too shallow. But this is the maximum pocket depth. Now, if part of your design says that you can't get that V bit between vectors to a depth of 0.15, it's not going to go down 0.15. It's going to go up. And you'll get, later we'll see, we're going to get a notification about that situation.
Will it compensate on the other side?
Pardon?
Will it compensate on the other side of the inlet?
No, no. Well, yes, it will. Yeah. So it won't make that part as deep, okay? But it will go all the way down to the bottom now. So if I have a depth here of 0.15, okay, but part of my say only goes that deep, okay, on this would be the pocket side, okay, the plug would be something like that, okay? The plug over here would be something like that. So in this case, you're not going to have a glue gap. Okay? In this case, you are going to have a glue gap. That's because this side exceeded, or went all the way down to 1.5. Does that make sense? Okay. So you start with the pocket depth of whatever you want, and I'm starting with the pocket depth of 0.15 because that's what we always had before. Then I'm going to say I want a glue gap of, let's say 0.010 of an inch. Sounds good to me. Glue doesn't take that much space, does it? Okay. And then I want a surface gap, and this is where we always couldn't figure out what was going on. And look at the diagram up here. I don't know if you can see it. So the glue gap is right here. The depth is from here to here. And right here between these two is a surface gap. Now, how big do you want that surface gap? Well, my bandsaw really cuts nice at 0.7 of an inch. or 0.07 inches, 0.07 inches. Big blade. Mine, if I have a 0.07 in there, it's perfect, absolutely perfect. So I'll put 0.07 in there. My job is done. All I have to do now is select, what type bits I want to use. This particular case, it's a 60-degree V-bit. I'm using both 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch end mill because I know on my 1/4 inch, probably won't be used on the pocket side, but it definitely will be used on the plug side. If you can remember what happens on the plug, all the stuff that's torn away on the outside. So,
Now, the old way, you would not include the outer box when you were doing the inlay part, right? So-
doing the plug part, you mean?
No, the part that you carve out, right, so
So the dark part?
the dark, yeah, so if I was, basically doing the dark piece.
Yeah,
I wouldn't include that outer box as part of the vectors that I was going to
yeah,
carve,
right.
right? But now you're putting everything in,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it figures out, okay, the outer box is for the plug, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
Because
see.
it's gonna
we'll-
clear all the
we'll-
way out to the outer
But
box.
we're gonna see what happens here in a second, I think. Yeah, we're gonna see what's gonna happen here in a second. So, if you notice, there is no outer box on this guy.
Right.
On the one on the right, but there is on the.
But the one on the right's the only one I'm worried about. The one on the right has the vectors selected for the toolpath. The one on the left is, let's see, I'm not sure if I can get rid of.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because when you selected everything that was there, including the box, and then clicked on
Yeah,
the inlay toolpath.
right, it'll work.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope. Okay, so have that. And now, I talked about layers before. Now this is where you want to actually create a layer. And right now my layer is called inlay. Okay, so that's this portion. I also have created a layer called plug, someplace in here, SDFWA plug. Okay, forget about the other layers. Those are the only two layers we're going to concern ourselves with at this immediate moment. So, whoops, select it all again. Okay, so right now down here, it says plug destination sheet. Plug destination sheet. I'll show you what happens when you do it wrong. I've done it before, and you say, wow, that's a lousy job. And we're not going to do vector offset, we're just going to go sheet limits. I'll show you how vector offsets works in a second. And we'll say calculate. And it just turns into a big mess. All your tool paths are on the same. Now you got to figure out which tool path goes to what, and holy cow, does that, man, oh man, yeah. Now the one nice thing about Windows is, we'll get back to that glue gap problem in a second here. So what I should have done is gone over here to the plug destination sheet and said, okay, I want to put it into the SDFWA plug. Okay, watch this. Calculate. Boom, boom, boom. Now, insufficient glue gap is what we were talking about up here. It still works, but there'll be places that will be too shallow to have a glue gap. And one of the places, for example, I'm going to say, okay. What's that say?
Empty tool.
Oh, empty tool paths, yeah. The 1/4 inch end mill won't fit on the pocket side. There's no place big enough for the 1/4 inch end mill. So it's going to have an empty tool path because I said I wanted a 1/4-inch end mill. Now's the time to go in and delete that empty tool path so I don't get really fouled up when Carbide Motion comes up and asks me for a 1/4-inch end mill, and I put it
Well, it
in.
won't let you save a tool path that's empty. I ran into that.
Oh, you did?
On the weekend, yeah, so I
Ah.
had one where my
Okay.
end mill clearing one was empty, and the save was actually grayed out,
Ah,
so you couldn't save it to the G code file.
good, good.
So you just take it off of one sheet, right?
Yeah, the sheet that's empty in. And you can go up, you can hover over the two ways. You can either go to the clock, and the clock will tell you which is a 0 time, or you can hover over the individual tool paths, and they'll tell you what the time is on it. And if it shows 0000000, then you delete it. Yeah.
Or you can just leave it in and then just uncheck it when you go to save the G
Yeah,
code.
yeah,
If you uncheck it, then it won't get included.
My problem is I forget to uncheck things at times.
Well, like I said, it won't, the save
Yeah.
won't be disabled.
Yeah.
It won't let you actually save the G code.
So, at any rate, this is created, now we've got the reset preview and preview all. This has created the pocket side of the house. And if I were to scroll back a little bit, we'll see that right over here, there's the other side of the house. And it's created it. Now, the grand part about this, and that's for those people who think ahead, which I never do, by the way, but those people who think ahead and may have a small job like this, okay? So they've cut the, they want to cut the plug first in this particular sequence that I'm going to give you. You'll cut the plug first, and then you'll come back and you'll cut the
Pocket.
inlay second. Don't remove the inlay from the board. Leave it there. Ugh. Glue the two together and figure some way of getting a compression jack going from the ceiling all the way to the top of this guy to hold it down and glue it in place. And sometime later, I won't tell you how long glue takes to dry, but sometime later, you can actually mill off the top of this. Okay? And you say, well, wait a second, how far should I mill down? Ah! Isn't this nice? Right here, they have a thing called plug stock. You didn't calculate, I mean, you didn't give it to it. It's based on the thickness of the material of the plug, how far it went in, what the glue gap was, and what the separation was. And they add and subtract, multiply and divide, take the square root of infinity and put it over 0, and they come up with this number. In this particular case, it's 0.61. So if you zero at the top of the plug, and then you say, go down 0.61 inches and clear everything out, now you've got a clean, whatchamacallit. You don't have to take it to the bandsaw. Isn't that nice?
So when you're setting up, you start out with a single design, so I'm assuming there's only one material size that you have set
Oh,
up.
I could have had 2 material sizes. The two
So
sheets.
different layers could have different material sizes?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
'Cause you
Different
don't know-
sheets, different sheets.
Different sheets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, layers is a different issue. But yeah, different sheets, and mine, we can try it if you want.
Okay, so that drop down on the top is the sheet, the one that you were showing where it says SDFWA plug. That's
Yeah.
a sheet.
Right, that's a sheet.
Not a layer, okay.
Yeah, that's a sheet. The layers are, layers are right here. Those are
So you set up each sheet, the material size, and then say,
Yeah.
send the plug over to this guy.
Right.
And then it will know what the material.
And hopefully the plug side is going to be large enough to handle whatever's being sent over.
Right.
Or you're going to get some slop outside of the size of the plug. It will not try to condense that plug or the artwork down to fit the material.
Right, obviously.
yeah.
That wouldn't be so good. It wouldn't fit that.
Yeah. So you can, yeah, it works.
But then you still send the individual sheets separately to the
Yeah.
Object Motion.
So when you get back to the, all of these here, these are just for the plug.
Okay.
So when I go to save that tool path, I better tell myself that I'm saving the plug side and not the inlay side, because I'd hate to put the wrong piece of wood down.
So the first two of those are for the two different end mill?
Yes,
Okay, and then the third one is for the
Right.
VCarve?
right. And if we take a look at,
If you hover over it, it will tell you what the tool is. for.
so the 1/4-inch end mill does a lot of the hogging out.
Right.
Okay, and then the, coming down in here, this will be the 1/8-inch end mill, will be the next one I'll show. And it just does some detail work.
Right.
And then, of course, the V-bit, it gets where everybody else couldn't.
And you have the time calculation that shows for all through those?
Yeah, so when you do time summaries, be sure and have them all marked, because
Right.
right now it's only an hour and 9 minutes. But when you have them all marked, it becomes an hour and 54 minutes. Okay, so that's, I'm gonna say that's gonna be, the actual job's gonna take, not accounting for setup and tool changes, et cetera, your actual job is gonna actually take longer than that. When I did the other one, it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be 38 minutes, and it took closer to an hour. But there is a lot of detail going up and down work, vertical work on that thing. So yeah.
I think V12, one of the tutorials on V12 has a correction method for getting the time estimate closer to
Oh,
reality
okay.
time. So you have to
Yeah.
check on the
Yeah.
tutorial sites.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll take a look at it. But that's just how easy it is now. And the thing that I was really amazed at is that it actually asks you, how much of a gap did you want, you know, between the two pieces that you can run your bandsaw through? And how deep do you want the overall inlay, the maximum depth for the inlay? It's not the overall, but it's the maximum depth for the inlay. And I was, even with my lousy job of sanding, if you take a look at this one, you can actually see the teeth on the whatever, that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Screw, thank you. So, it does a really detailed job, and that was only with a 60-degree V-bit. If I had gone to something like a 30-degree, it probably would have been a lot better.
So is that what you would recommend, a 60-degree for most inlay stuff? You wouldn't use a 90?
I would never use a 90. I would use a 90 if I'm putting a chamfer around the edge of something, or if I wanted to match. The open sign is a good example where you want to match the chamfer on the outside to the bevel on the inside. Then both of them would be a 90 if you're going to go that way. I really prefer 60. I think 60, to me, when I look at it, aesthetically it's more pleasing. Other people say, oh no, a 90 looks much better. So it's in the view or the eyes of the creator, not the eyes of anybody else. If you like 90, you stay with 90. If you like 60, the advantage to using a 30 on inlay is you get more depth to the cut. And you had that issue when you made your flag. He made a beautiful flag, and he used a tapered ball nose, I think, eventually, right? On yours. And tapered ball nose, yeah.
With like a 15-degree angle?
Yes.
Or less?
Oh, I would say less than that.
Less than that.
I think it's more like 6 or 7.
The
Yeah.
sharper you are, you get more detail probably too.
Yeah.
Well, tell them why you did that. That's really interesting.
Well, the stars, as you cut them, they've got a bead coming down on each leg. And so when you put it down in, it won't fit if the bit gets too big. So the way it comes is that you take the smaller the V and you can get tighter in the grooves as it's coming together. And so you can actually get it to fit down there pretty tight.
And why would you want it to fit down pretty far?
Well, because when you're sanding it, you can sand the inlay right off.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. So, and it was to be a cutting board, so
Cutting board, yeah.
quite possibly it'll be sanded at least 1 or 2 more times. Unless they're like the cutting boards I make and they put them up on a wall and
Yeah.
use it. So, there's reasons for making very deep pockets and reasons, that you really don't care. It comes
On the
close.
clearing paths, you can select multiple tools, so you can, start off with a
Right.
4-inch, 8-inch, or whatever. On the VCarve path, there's only one tool, right?
There's only one tool.
So you did the ball nose taper
For everything.
for that tool.
Yeah.
But then it's gonna use that same one for the plug side as well, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't you do multiple, tools for the pocket side of the V-carve?
For clearing, yes. For clearing, you can use multiple tools on the pocket side and both the plug and the pocket, okay? If the area that you have is big enough
Right.
to handle the tool, then it'll run the tool.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's that one error, not error, but cautionary statement that it made.
I got a friend
Yeah.
that wants me to do a cutting board and put a big monogram letter on there. So there'd be a lot of pocket side on the pocket that would need clearing versus just the V-bit.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So that's, I should not, well, next time, what I have hoped to do is have 3 versions of this. One, the pocket and the plug, independent. One of them glued together so you could see it, and then something better than this for the final product to see what, what the end result can be.
And you have not done one where you're, instead of bandsawing, you're just surfacing down the plug. right?
No, I haven't, but there was somebody in one of she was in an intro to CNC, which really surprised me, and she did inlay.
No.
From the intro to CNC class. She
Oh.
really made a quantum jump. And she ended up using, she uses
Surfacing.
super glue to hold everything together, and then she came back and, yeah.
I was gonna say,
So-
if this, one side of it takes an hour, the other side's gonna take another hour.
Yeah.
You gotta put the glue on.
Right.
I think your slot will be over before your.
That's the
your
problem.
glue dries.
If you own your own CNC machine, there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah.
If you have to get shop slot time, you're kind of limited. So,